If a little green is good, more is even better. Now, back to Green is Good with John Shigarian and Mike Brady.
Welcome back to Green is Good, and today we are so honored to have Nancy Gioia on the line with us from Michigan. Nancy's the Director of Global Electrification for the Ford Motor Company, one of the greatest brands in the world. Nancy joined the company in 1982. She's highly decorated and been through the company from the bottom all the way to the top. Nancy, welcome to Green is Good.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so delighted to join you guys today.
Hey, Nancy, listen, Mike and I were just talking on the intro a little bit. We've never had, from all these wonderful green companies and nonprofits that we've had on our show, we've never had a Director of Global Electrification. What does that mean?
Well, that's a great question. Since I got appointed last year, that's a bit of what I've been trying to figure out. But fundamentally, I'm responsible for the global strategy and planning around our products, how we plan to approach the market, who we work with, and leading the way to make electrification a viable, sustainable business for our customers as well as the company.
Okay, so now for our listeners out there who are listening to the show today, what does that mean for the people who want to go and buy a Ford? They want to go buy America and the USA. What does the global electrification part of it mean? The electrification part, explain to our listeners.
Well, we view electrification including hybrids, plug-in hybrids, and full battery electric vehicles. So the great news is if consumers and customers today want to go buy a Ford electrified product, they have some on the market today they can choose from. Our Escape hybrid, our Fusion or Milan hybrid, or our Mercury Mariner hybrid.
Wow.
All of those represent the best fuel economy in their segment, par none of the competition, plus the fantastic quality, durability, reliability, fun to drive, connectivity, everything else you expect from a product. So we have those on the road today. Later this year, we're going to launch our first full battery electric vehicle. It's going to be our Transit Connect van for commercial market. It's a really cool van. It's small. It's something today we build in Europe. And what's so exciting about that is we build a lot of vans off of that platform, and we're electrifying it, so it helps us get that cost down. But that's a full battery electric, goes about 70 miles on a charge.
Wow.
In 2011, next year, not far away, Focus electric. Just like the Focus vehicle coming, a new Focus that we actually showed in Detroit about a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
This Focus, really cool style, fun, everything, will also be a full electric, 100-mile target range. And then in 2012, we bring out our next generation hybrids. We're making them even more affordable, taking another 30% of the cost out, and we're introducing a plug-in hybrid. And what that means is you can easily recharge the battery overnight, get up to 30 electric mile range, but then it runs like a regular hybrid. So if you got to go 500 miles, you still can on that tank of gas, right? It's actually it goes over 700 miles on a tank of gas. So it's gonna be a fantastic product. So we've got this onslaught of product coming, electrification, growing here at Ford, here in America.
So wait a second, Nancy. You've been there 28 or so years, and you've been, worked your way up from the bottom now to this very big position, ups and downs and all the other things that come with any huge brand like yours. But it sounds like if I was sitting in the office next to yours with the title that you have and what you just explained, you're really not only the Director of Global Electrification, but truly you're the Director of the future of Ford. This is the future. This sounds like the future.
Well, it certainly is a big part of the future.
Yeah.
And what we say at Ford is there's no one technology that wins it all.
Okay.
I have, for example, myself, I have 2 horses, my horse trailer. My daughter and I go to horse shows. I need an F-150 in my driveway. I hook up, we tow, and we go. So it's, what we recognize is not all technologies work for all customers and how they use their vehicles. So we've got other green technologies like our EcoBoost engines. It's gas turbo, direct injection. We make the engine smaller. It's fantastic. It's 20% fuel efficiency with fantastic performance. So you get the performance of a V8 with a V6, or you get a performance with a i4 that you would have gotten with a V6, but 20% fuel efficiency.
So for our listeners out there, the real message then from you to the listeners is that Ford is your solution, no matter what you need. And if you want to live in the green revolution or you need other type of vehicles, Ford is your solution. Just go get a Ford.
Well, you know what? I love the way you've said that, because one of our strategic imperatives, absolutely, not only will our products be durable, reliable, the highest quality, fantastic features and functions, safety, all of those elements, but we have said every one of our new Ford products will be best in class for fuel efficiency.
That's great.
Fuel efficiency or fuel consumption is going to be a reason to buy a Ford,
right,
not to avoid a Ford. So we're really excited about that, and I think every one of the products we have coming out absolutely demonstrates that. And
is just as an aside, is this the first time Ford ever named a Director of Global Electrification?
Yes.
Great. So you're the first.
I'm the first.
Okay.
The great news is I can't be compared to anybody.
You're blazing the path. You're blazing the path. So tell us now, this is a tremendous platform that you're creating, and Mike and I are so excited to have you on, and what a wonderful brand that you represent. What concerns and challenges do you have, as you migrate the people who are so married to the Ford brand, your consumers, from gasoline to the battery and electrical power?
Well, the biggest challenges around electrification haven't changed in the last 100 years. Actually, in 1900, believe it or not, 1900, one-third of the cars on the road in America were electric. By 1930, there were zero. And the reason being is affordability.
Okay.
When you have vehicles that plug in where, say, it's a full battery electric vehicle and the only source of energy is that charge from the wall, being able to go far enough to meet your needs, so range anxiety or the distance you could travel, and then competing technologies. Back in 1900, it was the gas engine, and a gasoline-powered vehicle was half the cost of the electrified vehicle. So affordability, range, and then the technology capability to do what you want it to do. Wow. So we still face those challenges. Now, the other challenge when you start to plug vehicles in is infrastructure.
Ooh, good point.
Right? You got to have something to plug into.
Right.
And then you got to have a way for it to be simple to use, easy to understand. The billing is understandable. We have 3,000 utilities in this country, in the United States. And they all have different public utility commissions, different arrangements with their municipalities, and all of these things are different. So coming up with a national standard, the good news is we have a national standard on the plug, but we have to have how do we communicate to the utilities, to smart meters as those roll out. If you don't have smart meters, how do you understand your bills? Are you sure that the transformer down the street is going to work for you? Lots of system issues. Think of it as an integrated system, an all-new fuel system have to be worked out. And we've got some fantastic partnerships with the utilities, the Department of Energy, and others helping to lead identification of issues and working together before the vehicles are on the road so we can bring those solutions to our customers.
So that's a great point. So how do you then go down concurrent but different paths of rolling out your hybrid electric and full electric vehicles, and because they are different technologies and need different infrastructures, as you well put it, to support them?
Well, the great news is our hybrids, our hybrid vehicles, the Escape or the Fusion on the road today, you don't need a plug, right?
It. Great.
The battery's recharged as you press the brakes.
Right.
We recapture that energy, or we run as you're running the engine, we'll siphon some off to recharge the battery, and that's what allows you to displace directly oil with electricity. So that's the good news. Now, when we do our plug-in hybrid, we use the identical architecture. So the rest of the parts are the same except for the battery. It's a different battery. It's a much larger battery, and it's a different type of chemistry. It's lithium-ion, but it's a different mix, if you will, a different recipe for the lithium-ion.
Gotcha.
And what that is now you want to plug in, right? You want to be able to plug in. And the great news there is that vehicle can actually recharge in about 5 hours on a 110 outlet, which a lot of people have. You don't have to necessarily go up to a 240 outlet or a very high capacity charger, what they call direct current charging.
Got
so
it.
that gives customers an alternative to plug in, get some additional electric range, but not have to maybe change their garage, their household, or if they don't have access at their home but they have it at work, they can probably be able to plug in.
Okay, so now
then you do full battery electric.
Sure.
Now it gets a little harder.
Okay,
it
good.
gets a little harder,
Okay.
but it's not impossible. It's just you got to understand what your house is capable of, what your neighborhood, work with your utilities, let them know soon that you want to plug in,
Sure.
and then they can help you make sure that the whole system's ready to go.
So when our listeners are hearing all these wonderful innovations from you, the listeners out there that want to reduce their carbon footprint and get, though, the highest fuel efficiency for their own pocketbook, how do you compare and contrast your vehicles then for those two criteria?
Well, so basically, does it make sense for me, right?
Right.
Does this make sense for me? And it's really your drive pattern. It's how you use your vehicle. And this goes back to where we started a bit, which is we have a suite of different types of vehicles.
Gotcha.
And so if you do a lot of urban driving or city driving,
Sure.
Shorter distances, lots of stops and goes, hybrids, plug-in hybrids or battery electrics may make a lot of sense for you. If you're on a hop on the highway and you got a 70-mile drive to work, well, guess what? I would say EcoBoost or a full hybrid or EcoBoost might be a much better solution because then you aren't constrained by the distances you have to travel or the need for infrastructure. So, what's great is all these technologies will continue to evolve. So
Great.
by 2015, if you ask me that question,
Right.
the answer is a lot different,
Gotcha.
Potentially, right?
Yeah.
It's about the battery. It's always been about the battery. How fast can you charge? How many charge-discharge cycles? How does it work in temperature? All of those are areas that we still need to see some progress in.
So when you get together with the great marketeers of Ford and the strategy groups, and you plan, which I know no plans ever go for any company as perfectly as you want, but when you're planning, trying to guess who's going to be the early adopters of all these great technology you're talking about, how do you map that out? Where are you thinking the pockets of the newest the new adopters are going to come from in your consumer base?
Yeah, well, what we do is we look at a lot of things, right?
Sure.
We've looked at, in the past 8 to 10 years, 8 years plus, how have hybrids been accepted in the market, right? What states, what locations, et cetera? Because those are customers at least familiar with electrified transportation. When I look at plug-in type vehicles, right away I'm looking at city centers in the area, or urban centers, if you will, in the area where hybrids were initially popular. Because I've got folks who are saying, you know what, that worked for me. It continued to work for me, and therefore this next technology might work for me.
Gotcha.
We also look at, for plug-in, we think initially, just because it's going to take a time for that public infrastructure to be there, people with houses, with garages, who can either use what's already there or install a charger on their own personal property, that they're going to probably be ready before apartment dwellers, right? Complexes of apartments and
Sure.
parking structures
Sure.
and things like that. So, it's as you go from the hybrid to the plug-in hybrid to that full battery electric, where the only source is the plug from the wall, what we find is that funnel gets smaller and smaller in terms of the numbers of customers that the technology works for. So here, let me just kind of put it
Sure.
all in perspective. Today, hybrids in the United States, hybrids are about 2.4% of all the vehicles sold.
2.4. Okay.
All right?
Yep.
That's not huge,
No.
and that's after 8 years
Right.
with lots of incentives and a technology that doesn't require infrastructure to change.
So go to your crystal ball
or customer behavior to change.
So Nancy, I know you have a crystal ball on your desk. Tell us where we're going.
Well, by 2020,
Yeah.
we Ford are planning 10 to 25%, up to 25% of our new fleet of the vehicles we sell
Sure.
to be electrified, hybrids, plug-ins,
Fascinating.
or battery electrics.
And that's
Now,
just a mere 10 years from now.
And that's in 2020.
Yeah, 10 years.
So for us, we're going to go from 2%
Wow.
to somewhere between 10 to 25%. That's a huge change.
Huge change.
Huge. Now, But in 2020, if you said, well, of that, call it 10% of it, 10% of your vehicles, Ford, are electrified. How many are hybrids, plug-in hybrids, or battery electric? What I'll tell you is we think at that point we'll still be 70% will be hybrids.
Wow.
Because, again, the infrastructure no change there, no customer behavior change, fantastic fuel, works for short distance and long distance.
Besides
20% will be plug-ins.
Wow.
And maybe 5% battery electrics with central areas in cities or fleets, commercial fleets.
Right.
Like the post office, they drive 45 miles or less a day. What a great full battery electric vehicle application. So those are what we're trying to do is understand what will really work for the customer, because the one thing we have learned is if it doesn't meet the customer need and isn't affordable, I don't care how much or how geeky you think you are and you love the technology, it isn't going to go mass market. So we're trying to bring the right solution that's affordable for the right set of customers.
And I know we're talking a lot of information today, and what you're saying is just amazing. And for listeners that aren't catching it all, they're driving and listening, I just want them to know that they can all go to your wonderful website, www.thefordstory.com, www.thefordstory.com, and get all this information that Nancy's speaking about today on that website, right?
Absolutely, as well as pictures of the electrified vehicles coming and some of the initial specs and things like that. It's all there.
Well, your title is Director of Global Electrification. You have one of the greatest brands in the world. Tell us a little bit about what other great markets you serve around the world and that you're excited about in terms of the growth, like you just laid out in the United States. What other real exciting pockets of growth do you see in your global brand in this marketplace?
Well, we have plans globally, and I can't reveal them, or
okay.
You'd have to take me out back and shoot me, and that just sounds unpleasant.
No, that's
but what I
can
say is pay attention in the next few weeks, and you'll hear a lot about Ford Motor Company and how it's expanding globally.
That's wonderful. Well,
but regionally, obviously Europe.
Yeah.
Europe has a lot of dense populated cities, and certain areas like Paris or London, parts of Germany, Spain, really announcing a lot of government-led initiatives to help accelerate electrification. China.
Wow.
China will be the largest vehicle market in the world, already is, in terms of sales. As they grow, they need fuel diversification. Clearly, it will be of importance today. And then, for example, but it's everywhere, because I just read, of all the places you would have thought, I just read South Africa initiating incentivization to make electrified vehicles work in there. So I think everybody is viewing it's fuel diversity, it's replacing oil with electricity, it's giving another choice of fuel. Some places like Brazil and ethanol, that works great. They produce their sugar cane there, and they can produce their ethanol there. They aren't dependent on external oil.
Got it.
So, what you see is that the answer won't be identical around the world, but what we want to do is make sure we use our common platforms, our common vehicles around the world, like Focus. We make over 2 million vehicles off the same platform that the Focus is made on. We want to make sure that platform, we call it the underpinnings of the car with different top hats on it, that can be a battery electric, a plug-in hybrid, a hybrid, an efficient petrol, or an efficient diesel solution.
Got it. And we're down to the last couple of minutes, unfortunately, because you're just unbelievable and so interesting to hear everything that you're working on as the Director of Global Electrification. Can you just share in the last couple of minutes what else is Ford doing in the green or sustainability space? And I know it's a lot, but can you just give us a little teasers as to all the other great green initiatives you have going on?
Absolutely. We have what we call our sustainability plan, and it goes out to 2050.
Wow.
And we've been working on this for several years. Between now and, say, 2012, very near term, we've doubled our hybrid volumes. We've increased our EcoBoost. We've brought 6-speed transmissions. We've reduced weight. We've improved aerodynamics and energy efficiency, and improved the connectivity in a very safe way for our customers. So now, 2012 to 2020, you're going to see as I described already, we're growing electrification. We're adding battery electrics and plug-ins, and you'll see more and more volume rolling out, not only in the U.S., but the world. And then the other elements is massive weight reduction on our vehicles. We're going to take 500 to 750 pounds out of new vehicle platforms. And if you got to push less weight, you're far more efficient. You'll use less materials. We're also going to be adding to that with additional EcoBoost applications. 90% by 2013 of our lineup will have EcoBoost capable. Wow. Efficient diesels, additional direction and progression, down to what goes on in the combustion chamber in either a diesel or a petrol engine. And then aerodynamics efficiency, more energy efficiency. Well, post-2020, more electrification, and we continue with our hydrogen and other research, but boy, that's an infrastructure cost. So we've got to be sure that it's ready for broad adoption.
Well, Nancy, thank you so much. Mike and I have just been sitting here, and we're just in awe of everything green that Ford is doing. And for our listeners, again, that want to go and learn more about what Nancy just told us about, go to thefordstory.com, thefordstory.com. Nancy Gioia, your words of hope and promise were amazing today. We wish you all the luck as the Director of Global Electrification. And today you have again proven that you are living proof that green is good.